All right, first off, let me know if any of you guys are still using this thing in 2022. Let me know in the comments who's still using it, what you use it for, if you still like it. All right, let's get started. So I got my KP3 over 10 years ago, back in 2010, and the first video I did on it still averages 600 views a day on YouTube, which is just totally crazy to me. It's that easy start tutorial thing with awful sound and awful video, but people are still watching it. So I think that people are still either getting this thing or they're still learning about it. They've since released the KP3 Plus. I think they added a few more patches and they made some upgrades to the components like the pads and the switches. You can't really find these things anymore. I don't know if this is because KORG has discontinued them or maybe supply chain issues are causing them to manufacture less of them. They're still out there on eBay and Reverb, but new, I can't find them in stock on pretty much any of the online retailers. Anyway, 10 years on, I've still got mine and I have some thoughts on it. And real quick, if you like my demos, tutorials, and all my KP3 videos or any of the other videos I do, please consider subscribing and hitting the like button. First off, who is this thing for? I think initially KORG was marketing the KP3 to DJs as a supplemental effects processor that you could put in your DJ rig to add effects to your set. But for that purpose alone, it's way over-engineered for that. There's just so much more you can do with it than just add an effect to a signal coming in. But if you think of it as a multi-effects processor for like studio use, it doesn't really make sense there either. The ins and outs of this thing are unbalanced RCA ins and outs on the back, and it's got a 1/4 inch mic input on the front. So in terms of competing with something like the Eventide harmonizer, I don't think it really stacks up there in terms of audio quality. But there is a ton you can do with this thing. You can sample with it, you can add effects to the samples, you can resample the affected samples, you can sequence samples, you can crossfade between samples and sample banks, you can chop and loop samples, you can change how your samples are triggered. There are 2 compressors and 2 EQs in the unit. It's even got patterns and synth patches that aren't great. Who do I think this thing is for? I think it's actually really a great tool for people who are just beginning in music production or sound design, and they want to get a feel for what all these effects actually do. With almost every effect you can think of and multiple patches for each one of those effects, it really does allow you to get to know what filters are, how they work, different types of reverbs, modulation effects, delays, and it does it in a nuanced way where you use a touchpad to have instant control and feedback on how those effects respond. I also think this is a great tool for those who are into lo-fi production. If it's lo-fi hip hop or garage rock or things like that, and I will explain why in just a little bit. What do I like about it and how do I still use it? Well, I've been using mine basically as a plugin, an outboard plugin. I did a video a long time ago about how you can hook this thing up to your interface to send the signal out to it and back and use it in your DAW. And I'm still doing that in some cases. I'll take a drum track and send it out to the KP3, add a reverb or, you know, a gritty filter to it, and then bring it back into my DAW and use it in the song. It's also just a great way to sketch out ideas. You know, you can sample different parts of a song into it, like, you know, a drum loop, put a guitar on top of it, put a synth on top of it, put those all in different sample banks, you know, add some compression, add some reverb, other elements on top of it, and build out a rough song. It's really a cool, creative tool in that way. I've also used it in my guitar effects chain. Playing guitar with this thing can be really fun. Strum a chord, record a pad motion on the pad, and you've all of a sudden come up with a really unique effect that you can't get with a typical guitar pedal because you're modulating the sound with a recorded motion on the pad. and I've got a video that I'm gonna do on that that's gonna be here in the near future. What do I not like about it? Well, 10 years on, the touchpad is still working fine, which is pretty cool, but these sample bank pads down here are getting a little rough. So sample bank A, for instance, when I want to record a sample, I have to hit it really hard for it to finally engage and recognize that I hit it to like record the sample. Another thing is if you get really deep into a production with the KP3, say you've sampled, resampled, summed several samples into one sample bank, and then added more, it starts to get buggy. Like some of the effects don't get printed on the samples, or the effect will stay engaged even after you've taken your finger off the touchpad or you've released the hold button. It can also get tricky to remember which samples are in which banks. So, you know, if I've got a drum pattern in sample bank A and I want to record a, you know, guitar pattern, but I've got a bass here or I've got a shaker here, I forget which ones has which in it. So I'll record my guitar part and I'll overwrite my drum loop on sample bank A. Lastly, the fidelity on this thing is not great. You're not gonna use it to compete with, you know, a professional plugin. You're not gonna use it for a high quality reverb or a compressor or an EQ, but that does make it kind of useful for lo-fi production, as I was talking about before. The filters in this thing add a really unique character to the sound, and even the compressors and some of the reverbs add this really interesting sonic character that I can only describe as lo-fi. So for that application, I think it's awesome. Those are my thoughts on the KP3 in 2022. I'm still using mine. I considered getting the KP3 Plus, but I think the upgrade for a few more patches and a better build quality just isn't really worth it considering how often I use it. So if you've got any questions about the KP3, how it works, things you can do with it, anything, let me know in the comments and I will do my best to help you out. Thank you for watching.